Crack out of the chaos.
Hi, business owners. Phase 3. Woohoo! But do your customers know you're back? Well, that's where the Clarence Buggs Show and Pelican Broadcasting can help. Right now, we've got great rates on advertising packages to help you get the word out. Shoot me an email at bugsclarence@gmail.com. Or better yet, call me up. I'd love to talk with you. 225-485-6839. Let's get together and make Phase 3 the best it can possibly be.
Hello guys, it's Debbie. It's time. I've got a brand new location. 10510 Airline Highway, Baton Rouge, next to After 5 Tuxedos. We have the perfect spot to get all your wedding and formal wear needs. Come see our one-of-a-kind name brand and get great prices. With 30 years experience, the best customer service anywhere. It's Debbie's Bridal, Airline Highway, Baton Rouge. See you soon.
Getting a letter from the IRS that you owe back taxes can be scary, but it doesn't have to be. Call Go Tax Resolution in Lafayette at 337-420-1040 today. We'll help stop garnishments, levies, and seizures immediately. With over 35 years of dealing directly with the IRS, our team of local professionals will help you pay the least amount possible. So if you owe back taxes to the IRS, you need help. Call the tax professionals at Go Tax Resolution in Lafayette at 337-420-1040. Your go-to tax relief.
Hello and welcome to, week 3 of the Coach Roger Cador Show. Clarence Buggs along with the Coach Roger Cador. How are you today, my friend?
I'm doing good, Clarence. You got a big smile on your face.
Oh yeah. That's because relationships always bring about great things. And we're going to deviate a little bit from the normal format today because we've got a guest coming on later on that is a history-making individual and speaks to the greatness of America. But we got to start. LSU ending up the season on a great note, 53-48 win over Ole Miss.
Oh, yeah, that was a really big victory. And plus, they came back to win, and they did it with a bunch of freshmen playing, making the big plays from the quarterback, wide receivers, running backs, offensive linemen. They did it with them all.
Complete team victory. You got to hand it to this team, Coach. They continued to battle through COVID-19, through losses to games and to teams in games they could have won. They had all these defections, kids opting out, which you can't blame, and of course losing all these superstars from last year's national championship team. They could have very easily folded up tent, but they continued to battle on all the way through the season.
Listen, I know people won't give Coach O and his staff a lot of credit because they wanted them to go 10-0 again this year.
Well, yeah.
But I look at when things are very difficult, how do the people at the top are able to keep the people in the tent or camp really focused? And they did it.
Yeah.
They went on the road to Florida with a less than half staff, and they beat Florida. And then they came against Ole Miss and was down, and they came back and beat them. So he got the kids playing hard. They never gave up. They believe in the system.
What sort of mental block do you have to have about yourself as a coach when you're entertaining the fan base that has unrealistic expectations? Nobody in their right mind could have expected 10-0 this year with COVID-19, with all the kids that were lost from the year before, and yet a lot of fans were still hoping for 10-0. From a coaching standpoint, how do you gird yourself against that sort of thing?
Somebody say Alabama is 10-0. They won it and they come back.
Well, yeah, but that's Alabama. Alabama is a beast unto itself.
Yeah, well, Clemson too. How about them? So, but it's as from the coaching standpoint, you really just try to do what you know It's realistic, and it's to get your kids ready to play on a week in and week out basis. That's all you really can do, because it's about finding the way when things are not going right to win. On my way over here, I was thinking, what do I miss most about coaching? And I said, you know what? The one thing I miss is when I had to motivate my kids, get them to believe when things were at the worst or a difficult situation that they were in. And I had to give them a true story, motivate them, to help them to believe in themselves, because athletes are people. We can't forget that. In the mind, there's always some doubts every now and then that creeps in. Leadership is about coming in and soothing over those doubts. Flush out the negative and flush in the positive. That's what leadership is about. So when doubts come in, which they happen to everyone, you're there to give them something positive that they can hang their hats on.
So leadership is all about being a plumber. You got to flush it in and flush it out.
That's what you have to be. That's pretty good, Clarence.
So when your record speaks for itself, the number of championships, draft picks, the whole nine, as a young coach, what did you draw upon with your early teams to be able to inspire them in dark times?
I probably didn't do a good job when I was a young coach, because I had to learn. Remember, I had never been a head coach. So, but I had been a coach, and my job was in the supporting role as an assistant. You support the head coach's philosophy and what he want to do. Now I had to develop my own. And then I had to make sure my kids believe in it. And then I had to be there every day saying some of the same thing, because it's about repetition. In this, it's in life. It's repetition.
True.
And sports is the same thing. You want to make sure every day, kids hear mainly the same thing with a little variation different, but basically the same thing, so they can try and achieve what you're trying to get them to do.
All of you young folks considering going into coaching, lock that into the back of your mind. All right, we have highlights from this absolutely wild shootout between the Tigers and Ole Miss. So, guys, if you will, in the truck, let's roll those highlights, and Coach and I will continue our conversation. The defense early on, giving up some plays, but you got to credit this LSU offense, and in particular, two freshmen, Max Johnson at quarterback, and, of course, the wide receiver. Before we get there you see a pick six. Defense, despite giving up 48 points, never gave up on themselves, Coach.
They didn't give up. The only game I sort of thought they gave up a little because they were demoralized was Alabama. I mean, they were a little demoralized. Other than that, they've played hard. They played through mistakes, and they've given the effort that coaches look for. Because when they go look at the film, that's what they were looking for. Who kept playing.
Max Johnson, as a freshman quarterback, looks so poised. It's hard to believe that he's a freshman.
Well, I tell you, he really doesn't look like a freshman. I mean, but I'm looking at the offensive coordinator is giving him something he can be successful with. He keeping the game playing simple. He didn't ask him to step back and keep throwing deep passes. He kept giving them short passes. They had a good mixture of the running game. And give that offensive line some credit. They didn't let him sack this young man. They blocked him and protected him.
And, of course, we see here a breakdown on special teams. But all in all, everyone contributed. And from a coaching standpoint, that's got to be one of the greatest pleasures, is when you see all facets of your team contribute to a win.
Yeah, it really does. And this is a really good defensive play right there. An interception knocked the ball out of the quarterback's hand. And then I tell you, there's the Cox and number 3, Anthony, on that defense are really outstanding players. I mean, and they were all over the field,
There's your guy.
Yeah.
There's Mr. Butte, Kayshawn.
Don't drop it early. You're good. You're in the end zone.
Yeah.
I've got a nephew that plays for Ole Miss, number 24 there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we almost had him. LSU almost had him. He came from Canada. They canceled the college season there, and he was able to transfer in. to the United States. So he's going to be a really good player. He'll be a pro playing defensive back.
You know, you look at the performance of Kayshon Boutte and the other wide receivers for that matter, and you wonder what the season could have been like had they not had Marshall and others to opt out. Of course, I mean, you know, that's a part of the game. That's a part of life. You always wonder what could have been. But 5-5, considering everything that happened and could happen during the season, is not that bad for this year's team.
No, it's not bad at all. And with them guys opting out, I know partially why they did. The freshman quarterback or freshman offensive line, they realized, man, we're not gonna look as good. It may hurt our stock.
Right.
It's selfish because you're signed to play, but that's the kind of stuff you got to deal with in today's coaching college football.
How much are we fans at fault in that equation because we don't demand any better out of? I mean, it's almost as though we now understand, well, this kid looks like Boutte, he's the real deal. Okay, 2 years and he's out of here. How much do we share in this blame for the monster that college football has become?
Well, I'm not going to blame the fans per se. The fans pay the money to come and see performance. Mm-hmm. You know, they have no say-so in what happens with the organization, with the kids in.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They just want to see performance. Boutte, they want to see you. There you go. But that's all it is. So my whole thing is, I just think that the thing with the money and people looking at if you get hurt, you're not going to make the money.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So they feel we've done our part. We've gotten you to a certain point. Now we're going to try to make the money for our family, you know. Ooh, run over. Don't hurt the umpire. I mean, the referee. Oh.
The coaching staff did a really good job of keeping these young men's, quote, heads in the game, because they're at any point, any number of points during the course of the contest, they could have folded up 10, but they battled back after every single opportunity that Ole Miss took advantage of. They came back, and in some cases, many cases, actually made their own opportunities.
Yes, they certainly did. And like I said, man, this, you know, you as from being a former coach, you want to see when adversity set in, how do my team going to react?
Right.
And they've reacted doing good, you know.
What, from a coaching standpoint, is most important in times like that, do you think? Is it what that young person has inside of them or what you impart to them?
Well, it's better to have it inside of them.
Yeah.
Because in reality, that's what's got to come out.
Right.
You can try and stick it in him.
Right. But if it doesn't belong there,
if it's not in there, you can't get it out.
Can't get it out.
But if he's got it in there, and then you add some ingredients like motivation and make him believe in himself, then you really got something special. Remember, Nick Saban, get credit for being a great coach. I'm going to stick Nick Saban at Vanderbilt. You go coach Vanderbilt, Nick Saban. We're going to see how great a coach you are.
These last two wins really gave this team something huge to build upon for next season, didn't it?
Yeah, they really, you know, it would have been good. The one thing coaches in college football, if you're able to go to a bowl game, you're able to coach 2 or 3 more weeks.
Right.
And that's a big plus to have the practice in for the young guys to help them understand the system a little better.
Yeah.
You know, so it is.
At the end of the day, perseverance is what this whole season boiled down to, isn't it?
Yeah. Perseverance. They persevere really good, and things worked out well for them.
When we come back, we have a little bit of history that we're going to share with you, but you got to come back if you want to be a part of it. That's coming up next on The Coach Roger Cador Show. Stay close.
termites? Get Premier Pest. PremierPestServices.com.
Hey, Coach Roger Cador here. There's something about teamwork that brings the best out in any business. When I need a tow, I call Roadrunner Towing. Roadrunner's 4 generations strong and homegrown right here in Baton Rouge.
Thanks, Coach. There's no job too large or too small. Call Roadrunner for quick, reliable, exceptional service. We don't want an arm and a leg. We just want your toes. And remember, take time each day to be a blessing to someone. Thank you.
Looking to get some keys made, locks rekeyed, or a wide variety of new and used safe? Then look no further than the trusted choice of Alfred Safe and Lock. Conveniently located off of Government Street in Mid-City, Baton Rouge. Trust the expert locksmith at Alfred for all of your residential, commercial, and industrial lock and safe needs. Trusted by Baton Rouge and me, Roger Cador, to protect what is yours since 1946.
Surprise, something good has finally happened in 2020. Yours truly, the Clarence Bugg Show, gets to be with you every day of the week. That's right, 11 to 12 every weekday. And of course, the Exiles right in front of yours truly from 10 to 11, yours truly 11 to 12. So now it's appointment viewing. 5 days a week here on the Pelican. The Clarence Bugg Show. The only thing missing is you.
From appetizers, pasta dishes, and entrees, La Contea takes pride in preparing all the Italian cuisine we know you love. Enjoy live music every Thursday through Saturday from 6 to 9, happy hour weekdays from 3 to 6, and brunch on Sundays from 11 to 2, as well as dinner portion-sized lunch specials for under $10. Visit our website to view our menu and book a party or meeting in our large banquet room. Once you try La Contea, your Italian dining will change forever.
Caught spiders? Premier Pest Services.
Welcome back for segment 2 of today's edition of the Clarence. I almost said the Clarence Bugg Show. I'm so used to doing my show. First time I've ever done that. The Roger Cador Show. If you were with us as we went to the last commercial break, you know that we teased this segment with something historical in nature. We are blessed and privileged to have with us today the first female general manager in Major League Baseball, Kim Ng, the new GM for the Florida Marlins. Coach, would you do the honors of introducing us?
Kim, how are you today?
Good. How are you, Coach?
I'm doing good, dear. Listen, we are so proud of you to be the first. And when I thought about it, if you ever heard of James Brown, in the 60s, he made a song. This is a man's world, but it wouldn't be nothing without a woman or girl. How about that, Kim? But we're so happy. We know that, perseverance have been your trademark. You've been a trailblazer. You started out as an intern with the White Sox, and you work your way to the Los Angeles Dodgers, the Boston Red Sox, the Yankees. You've done it all in the major markets. Now you get to be the head nacho over here in Florida with the Marlins in Miami. So we're just so proud of you. How does it feel?
Well, it feels great. At first it was, it was daunting. To be named to be the head of baseball operations. And you think about the job and all that it encompasses, and obviously it's a big job. But I think once it settled down, once I got used to it, the idea that it really just became something that I think for me was natural. I've been an assistant GM for 13 years of my career. I've been the assistant GM of the Yankees as well as the Dodgers, two of the most storied franchises in all of professional sports, and I've been trained for this. So, I'm just letting my experience take over. I'm letting my management experience and expertise take over, and hopefully we can go acquire some players and get back to the playoffs. But we'll see.
Well, good. You know, Kim, you and I serve on Commissioner Bud Selig Diversity Committee, and that's part of what the commissioner wanted, to see situation like what you're in. And then, like I said, I often tell young people, when you have a dream, you should never give up, because this is your prime example of not giving up. You work through some difficult situation, and then you finally got the call.
That's right. I finally got the call, and I think a big part of that is not giving up hope. I think it's still working your tail off every day, going to work and making sure you give it your all, and keeping your networks alive, and making sure that you're talking to a lot of people and getting all the advice that you can. So those are the things that I've done, over my entire career. And luckily, I've built up a reputation for myself where, eventually somebody saw it. And, I was just fortunate that it was Derek Jeter. And, he obviously is a guy who's been through the ringer before, being in a big market like New York and having experienced all the things that he did, and the winning that he did. So the good thing is that he knows what winning's about, and, hopefully I'm a part of that equation for him.
Kim, I liken your story to the ultimate expression of the greatness of America, in that you started as an intern with the White Sox, work your way all the way up to a general manager's position. Can you say enough about being willing to start at the bottom, make the sacrifice, have the dedication, willing to go the extra mile, and working your way to the top?
No, you can't. You can't say enough about it. It really is just, part of my nature. I love talking to young people and telling them that, I held 3 jobs after college, and I was sleeping on the floor of a friend, her dorm room floor.
Wow.
As I was working those 3 jobs, just trying to scrape together enough money to make ends meet. One of those jobs was being an intern for the White Sox. But I think all of those things really, number one, tell you about character, and number two, tell others how much you were willing to sacrifice to get what you wanted. Really says something, I think, about the passion that you have for something. So, starting at that, and when I tell these people these stories, I mean, their eyes just get wide because they can't believe, sometimes how much, people go through.
Right.
But I think, having that on my resume only gives more credibility to the things that I've done, and how hard I've worked and how far I've come to get to where I am right now.
What was it initially, Kim, that drew you to the game of baseball?
My father was a big sports fan, and he was a big baseball fan as well. So, just being able to play catch with him, and we lived in Queens when I was a kid, so I grew up playing stickball and running bases, and I just loved it. I love sports in general. I played collegiate softball. I played tennis through high school, and I just loved the game. I loved the rhythm of it. I loved the sounds of it. There was nothing really like going to the ballpark on a spring or summer day.
Let's put this puppy to bed right now, Kim, because as I'm sure you are well aware of, in today's, quote, social climate and the emphasis on diversity, end of quote, you are going to encounter those out there that harbor the ill-gotten notion that, well, she just got the job because she's a female. MLB is trying to expand its base, and this is the age of diversity, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. But your resume pretty much speaks for itself. And the fact of the matter is, Derek Jeter, the perfectionist that he is, and with the background that he has, he's not going to hire anybody who, one, is not certainly qualified above and beyond, and number two, shares his passion for winning, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that, again, for Derek and I, having worked together way back in the late 90s, early 2000s, and having been with the Yankees for those years, I think that's one thing that was really attractive, I think, to both of us was, we spoke the same language, and we had the same expectations of what should happen and the way things should go. And so, and that was the language of being a Yankee and what those expectations were. So I think that was a big part of of my interview and Derek wanting me to fill this position. So in terms of my resume, I was an assistant GM for 13 years, and 8 of those years my teams went to the playoffs.
Wow.
So I'm not sure that when you put that resume up against some others that there's going to be a ton of resumes that are similar to that. And so I would just say that I've paid my dues, and hopefully the proof will be in the pudding, and we'll know in a few years once once we get this team going.
As a lifelong Yankee fan, I understand full well the drive that Derek Jeter has. What would Kim Ng say to an individual, a young person in particular, that finds themselves in a situation where there is an opportunity to work for someone who obviously is a perfectionist, who will settle for nothing less than 110%, 120% of the time, and may be a little hesitant about jumping into an arena with that much heat in the kitchen? What do you say to that person, Kim?
I would say you don't know until you try. And if you're not willing to try, that's fine, but you'll never be able to, reap the rewards of at least putting in the effort, at least giving it a shot. And I would say again, for me, it was always worth it. Whatever it was, the 90-hour weeks, 95-hour weeks, missed Christmases and Thanksgivings at times, all kinds of holidays, birthdays, etc. But at the end of the day, at the end of the season, it was always worth it. And I treasure my time in baseball. I cherish it, and looking forward to more great years.
There you go, Kim. He mentioned kitchen. He don't know that you're a really good gourmet cook, especially with the gumbo. You only didn't know.
I'm a good cook with help from you, Coach.
All right, Kim.
Those New Orleans ways.
There you go, dear.
There you go.
Listen, we really appreciate you taking the time. We know you got a lot going on, but thanks for coming on and sharing these wonderful moments with us. I know all of the people who will be watching the show is going to enjoy listening to you, okay?
You're welcome, and thank you for having me.
Anytime, dear.
You're quite welcome. Kim Ng, General Manager for the Florida Marlins, the first female of any major sport in America wearing the GM cap. And for anybody out there that might be thinking, oh, that's just diversity. No, Hoss, read the resume. The girl is awesome. Got to get this break out of the way. When we come back, we'll talk some more news about Major League Baseball and a historic announcement about the Negro Leagues. That's next on this week's edition, I'm not going to say the Clarence Bud Show, of the Coach Roger Cador Show. Stay close.
And I can call Kim my friend.
Yes, sir.
Getting a letter from the IRS that you owe back taxes can be scary, but it doesn't have to be. Call Go Tax Resolution in Lafayette at 337-420-1040 today. We'll help stop garnishments, levies, and seizures immediately. With over 35 years of dealing directly with the IRS, our team of local professionals will help you pay the least amount possible. So if you owe back taxes to the IRS, you need help. Call the tax professionals at Go Tax Resolution in Lafayette at 337-420-1040. Your go-to tax relief.
Hi, I'm Hurricane Betsy Barnes.
And I'm Dr. Kay Siller with The Rocket Right Show.
We are two busy blondes on the go showing off life in Louisiana.
Watch us on Pelican Sports Network.
And Talk 107.3 FM. Check local listings for times.
Hello guys, it's Debbie. It's time. I've got a brand new location. 10510 Airline Highway, Baton Rouge, next to After 5 Tuxedos. We have the perfect spot to get all your wedding and formal wear needs. Come see our one-of-a-kind name brand and get great prices. With 30 years experience, the best customer service anywhere. It's Debbie's Bridal, Airline Highway, Baton Rouge. See you soon.
Surprise, something good has finally happened in 2020. Yours truly, the Clarence Bugg Show, gets to be with you every day of the week. That's right, 11 to 12 every weekday. And of course, the Exiles right in front of yours truly from 10 to 11, yours truly 11 to 12. So now it's appointment viewing. 5 days a week here on the Pelican, the Clarence Bugg Show. The only thing missing is you.
Break out of the chaos.
Welcome back to week 3 of the Coach Roger Cador Show. Clarence Buggs along with the Coach Roger Cador. It's as though Major League Baseball decided, you know what, we want all the headlines this week, although it was actually last week. For those of you just tuning in, we had the opportunity to spend a little time with Kim Ang, the first female general manager in Major League Baseball. I can't begin to imagine what that's got to be like working with the likes of Derek Jeter. I mean, the perfectionist that he is, the expectation of great things, that's a pressure cooker. But a tip of the hat to her for stepping into that position and for building the resume to get to the point to be considered for that. But Major League Baseball announcing last week their Hall of Fame selection committee has now decided they're going to incorporate the Negro League's records into the history of Major League Baseball. Coach, that's absolutely huge. That's monumental. What do you think this will mean for the legacy of the Negro Leagues?
Well, you're not outside looking in anymore.
Right.
Now you're inside.
Right.
And I think it's only right because what happened, because at the time they were denied the opportunity to be in the all-white league or Major League, and they created their own league. They did it the right way. They played by the rules.
Right.
They just wasn't given the same publicity and all the other things that goes along with it. But they were entertaining.
Yeah.
And they had great players who put up great numbers, and they deserve to be there.
Not to mention the fact that it kept the game of baseball alive in the African American community when we were not allowed to play in other leagues.
And it made society a better place. Pretty much once they allowed them to play in the Major League with Jackie Robinson coming in, it began to let people of other color understand that these people were, all of the false stories that they were told about these people weren't true.
Right.
They were just like the white ball players.
It says a lot, does it not, that after all these many years, Major League Baseball came to the realization that we need to right this wrong. It says a lot about MLB, doesn't it?
It says a lot. A lot of things came up when what happened this summer with the Floyd man in
the George
Minnesota.
Floyd incident, right?
Yeah, I think brought to light
Mm-hmm.
a whole lot of things that was in the darkness.
Mm-hmm.
And people started saying, hey, wait, maybe we ought to look into something. Now,
Right.
I'm sure MLB had maybe been looking at this.
Right.
I'm not going to say that they jumped right in.
Right.
They probably had been doing some research and study behind the scene, and they figured it was the right time to do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it now. We've got the movement going. Let's make sure society can get the whole picture here.
And the fact of the matter is, the legacy and the story of Major League Baseball is only enhanced when you throw in the names like Josh Gibson and Satchel Paige and all these other greats.
Papa Bill.
Yeah, that only serves to enhance the history of the game, doesn't it?
It certainly does. And Clarence, I really feel good about myself. Remember, several years ago, here's
you
a program.
beat me to the question. You beat me to the question, Coach. Don't get ahead of yourself, Peter.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll let you action.
No, I was going to say that this has to feel really good to you because you took it upon yourself in your days as a skipper to institute a whole weekend where traditionally it was the Southern Grambling Baseball Weekend, where you went out on your own and secured uniforms from all the different Negro League teams, decked out the players on both sides, and put that history out in front for us to enjoy at Lee Hines Field. That's got to feel pretty good. 'Cause not that you did it for the glory or anything, but to see it come to fruition now has got to feel pretty good.
It was the right thing to do. I knew that there was history involved here. And remember, Southern didn't give me the money to go purchase the uniform. I raised the money, and I went out and purchased the uniform because I wanted history to live on. I wanted the uniforms to talk. I wanted them to send a message, speak to the players when they have them on, and say, I could be Oscar Charleston, you know, when they were, or Satchel Paige, or, you know, them guys, when they had the uniform on. How can a story live unless you live it? You know, or tell a story. We really were retelling the story. And I really chuckled a little because I said, you know, I was in the ball game.
Yeah.
I almost felt like when Buck O'Neill and Satchel Paige went to Charleston, South Carolina, and they went to the place where they used to auction off the slaves.
Right.
And in a private moment, Satchel Paige said to Buck O'Neill, Nancy, I feel like I've been here before.
Wow.
You see, the spirit was
Wow.
there. And what Buck O'Neill related to us, that he felt that Satchel felt that maybe his grandparents were auctioned off here before, or somebody in his family, and the spirit hit him. So those are the kind of moments that you really, in the Negro, in the black community, we live one oral history. We don't have a written history.
Right.
We have an oral history.
Right.
And this is why when I was growing up, I used to go sit under the big oak tree and listen to my grandfather tell me stories.
Yeah. Man, that story made the hair on my neck stand up just now.
Yeah.
You mentioned something moments ago, how you raised the money to purchase these Negro League uniforms for Southern and Grambling to play every weekend when they would visit Lee Hines Field. You got to thank the folks that believed in you enough that when you came to them with this idea, they said, yeah, Roger, I'll help. Because I can only imagine someone that has not had the life experiences you've had, someone that cannot necessarily relate to the experiences of people that share our skin color. What could have been their response, what could have gone through their minds when you come to them and ask them to help you do an old Negro League weekend. I mean, if ever there was a reason where you could have been turned down, well, Roger, things are tight for us right now. You know, we didn't meet our quota last quarter. Can you check with me next year? But folks have believed in you from the business community for a mighty long time. And it's when they put their money where their mouths are that we get stuff like what you were able to achieve.
Yeah, I have to say the business community have been such a friend to me for so many years. But I want to go a little step further.
Okay.
The business community came up through for me, but it was the gentleman in California who owned those uniforms.
That's right.
I had to convince to sell them to me at a price that I could afford. Because he told me what other teams, minor league teams, because they did Negro League weekends, what they paid for these uniforms just for the weekend.
Wow.
And I had to convince him I had more historical value. I said they'd have historical. I said, remember, most of the people who played in the Negro League went to historical black colleges. Most people don't know that. These guys were college educated. And the guy was the right guy. He trusted me. And he sold them to me at a price that I could afford. So I'm just telling you, a lot of things had to work in my whole life. The one thing I was never afraid to ask people for help. See, people know when you ask for help if you're sincere or if you're trying to run a game. And I've always done it. And I spent a lot of hours, like Kim said about relationships. I spent a lot of hours building relationships.
Oh, yeah. I'm a witness to that.
You know, all over this world, that's what I do, build relationships.
How hopeful are you? Because it's a sad reality that many people of color that are sports fans, many people of color that are baseball fans, don't have nearly the knowledge of the old Negro Leagues as they should have. How hopeful are you that Major League Baseball, in now incorporating the Negro Leagues into the history of MLB, will spark a resurgence in our community of people wanting to know more about the Negro Leagues and the game of baseball, for that matter?
Remember, there were many generations who missed out on the value of the players who played in the Negro League. Remember, I mentioned earlier, our history is more oral than written. You see, and people stop telling the story to their kids. We missed several generations of that. But I'm hopeful now that the records are incorporated into the Major League, that people will. Now, Clarence, what we've got to understand, and being on the diversity committee set up by Bud Selig, Commissioner Bud Selig, the one thing I learned is that it's going to take generation. It doesn't happen overnight. And this is the kind of thing, you and I may not be around when it start kicking back in. That people can have more of an appreciation for it. I think with what Major League Baseball is going to do, and I tell you, being on that committee, it's going to go international. It's going to create more of an opportunity for young black kids to be able to say, I want to go play baseball again. Because once they start going international, I expect Montreal, I expect Mexico City, I expect even Australia and China to be a part of it, and even consider somewhere in Europe. They are going to, at some point, be a part of MLB, because that's where MLB is trying to go. And it's not going to happen, like I say, in 5, 6, it may be 30, 40 years, but they have a plan on the table to take baseball international.
When we come back, we will have our final segment of this week's edition of the Coach Roger Cador Show. Stick around. Still going to talk some more football with the Saints and the Chiefs. That's next. Stay close.
I don't want it to end. Can we keep going, Marty?
Got termites? Get Premier Pest. PremierPestServices.com.
Looking to get some keys made, locks rekeyed, or a wide variety of new and used safe? Then look no further than the trusted choice of Alfred Safe and Lock, conveniently located off of Government Street in Mid-City, Baton Rouge. Trust the expert locksmith at Alfred for all of your residential, commercial, and industrial lock and safe needs. Trusted by Baton Rouge and me, Roger Cador, to protect what is yours since 1946.
Surprise, something good has finally happened in 2020. Yours truly, the Clarence Bugg Show, gets to be with you every day of the week. That's right, 11 to 12 every weekday. And of course, the Exiles right in front of yours truly from 10 to 11, yours truly 11 to 12. So now it's appointment viewing. 5 days a week here on the Pelican. The Clarence Bugg Show. The only thing missing is you.
Hey, Coach Roger Cador here. There's something about teamwork that brings the best out in any business. When I need a tow, I call Roadrunner Towing. Roadrunner's 4 generations strong and homegrown right here in Baton Rouge.
Thanks, Coach. There's no job too large or too small. Call Roadrunner for quick, reliable, exceptional service. We don't want an arm and a leg. We just want your toes. And remember, take time each day to be a blessing to someone. Thank you.
Caught spiders? Premier Pest Services.
Welcome back to the final segment of Week 3 of the Coach Roger Cador Show. The Saints drop a heartbreaker, Coach, to the Kansas City Chiefs, 32-29. Drew looked rusty, didn't he?
Well, he did. And we saw you and I talked about that the last time. But, and the defense probably made him look a little rusty, too. Because that's a good defense.
Oh, yeah.
And you didn't have your number one target. So a lot of things. You coming back, hadn't played in 4 weeks. Then you got to you're going against the number one defense. It wasn't easy.
But it's just like the old riding a bike thing. It's something you never forget. Once he got his wheels under him, he started looking more and more like the Drew we know and love.
That's right. He did a good job. And, they probably can forget about that number one seed. But, right now they're played a couple of games at home. I mean, you don't want to have to go on the road because they are a dorm team in January.
Yeah. Well, let's roll the highlights, if we will, out in the truck for what was obviously a heartbreaking loss. But I guess it's all about perspective. Are we witnessing, as we watch these highlights, are we talking about the 2 best teams in football? And do you think they'll meet again in the Super Bowl, Coach?
I'm not going to think New Orleans is better than Green Bay. Green Bay is pretty doing good.
You got to keep hope alive, Coach.
Well, I'm not saying it. I'm being realistic.
Right.
Hope is, where they are now doesn't have anything to do with what's going to happen in the playoff. Because all it takes is one injury or 2.
Oh, yeah.
And the Saints have had their share of injury.
Yeah.
If they could get everybody healthy for the playoff, then they're a different team.
Yeah.
And they lost Jordan. He got kicked out of the game, which hurt. You can't lose your number one defensive lineman.
The Saints, as you mentioned, were woefully short on starting wide receivers. If the starters were there, it probably would have been a different story, but that's football. Everybody's got injuries, right?
This time of year.
Yeah, that's football.
Everybody got them this time of year. Yeah, it's football. And, Kansas City has been, now they lost their number one running back, so that will play a part. But they have Lovell Bell,
right?
That they signed, which was a good sign.
Oh yeah,
Oh
yeah.
So now they can plug him in, and they still have Williams. So,
that play right there really shocked me. I was trying to remember the last time I saw Breeze throw a 51-yard pass completion, and it's been a while.
Yeah. Well, remember, his arm is probably stronger now
Great
that
point.
he didn't have to throw for 4 weeks.
Great point.
I mean, the thing with 40-some-year-old quarterbacks is that you figure in the 15, 16, 17 games series how many balls they have to throw.
Yeah.
and it takes its wear and tear on him.
And ironically, he made that pass as I'm watching the game, maybe 2 plays after I'm saying to myself, I don't want to push him because of the injuries, but we've got to stretch the field against this defense. You can't just continue to dink and dunk and dink and dunk. You got to stretch the field against these guys. And lo and behold, I almost fell on the floor when I looked up and saw Drew launch a 51-yarder. It seems the Chiefs, Coach, have a love affair with Louisiana. There were 4 Louisiana products on their roster. 3 former LSU Tigers, 1 Louisiana Tech Bulldog. It says a lot about the caliber of athlete that comes out of Louisiana, doesn't it?
Well, in football, Louisiana have some of the top-rated football players to come out of the state. For a state with a population of just over 4 million, there's a large number of athletes that come in here, especially that goes to colleges also.
Right.
So it really says a lot about the people, the kind of people we have here who can produce these caliber athletes.
Watching the replay here and the flag notification on the screen, something the defense is going to have to clean up. And I didn't know this until I saw a stat on it recently. But the Saints defense is the most penalized defense in the league. If you plan to make a championship run, you got to clean that up, don't you?
And it's probably the defensive backs leads the way in
pass interference.
Yeah, they're terrible for that. But some of them, I know why. If you beat, you might as well take the 5-yard, take the penalty.
Well, yeah.
You see, because you've been beaten.
Don't give up the 7.
There you go.
Take the 5.
Right. So it is what it is. But they have to clean it up. When you go into playoff, when teams are not going to make as many mistakes, you look at this play right here by Mahomes.
Man,
I mean,
was that a throw or what?
But you see the kind of quarterback he is. He forces players again. He forces players to make plays because they know he's coming to them.
Yeah.
He's going to take chances, you know.
Yeah. Well, the defense did manage to sack Mahomes 4 times during the game. That's not an easy feat in and of itself, Coach.
One time when they sandwiched him, I really thought they had him. They sandwiched him.
Yeah.
And they hurt him a little bit. But he's a tough cookie.
Oh, yeah. And he's a young
man.
Right.
No, that's not the one where they maybe that's it where they sandwich him. That could be the play there.
He doesn't have those old bones like Drew. He's a young, strapping fella, so it's not that big a deal. I have to wonder, Coach, how much we attribute it to Drew being out for 4 weeks. But I noticed in looking at the box score after the game was completed, we were only 1 of 11 on 3rd down conversions. You can't make a championship run if you're giving up drives because you're 1 of 11 on 3rd down conversion attempts.
And that means you got to pass way too much. You need to be able to run it so you could get, you want that balance.
Yeah.
You want balance in your. I try to look at some of these plays where they say, let's show the balance. They got 15 run, 17 passing.
Right.
That's really balance.
That's balance. Yeah.
Because now the defense have to play. They can't key in on your wide receivers.
Yeah. How much of that do you think was a little bit of the Taysom Hill hangover, meaning we had to adjust the whole scheme with Taysom running the offense as opposed to Drew? I was looking for a little more run orientation out of the team yesterday. Of course, now, when you fall behind early, especially if you're down 2 scores, then that kind of changes the complexion somewhat of what you're able to do.
Well, the game plan with Hill and Drew is too different.
Oh, yeah.
Drew is a passer, run. Hill is more of a runner.
Right.
That's really what he's going to grind it out and all of that. Let's watch this play here. Oh, no, that's different. I thought it was the play where, he's got all kind of plays in his arsenal that he can trick them,
Well, hopefully we will iron out all the rough spots, the penalties on the number one penalized defense, and get that 1 of 11 third down conversion percentage fixed before we get into that stretch run looking for another championship. Let's switch gears a little bit, Coach, and go back to the college ranks for football. Now that the COVID-19 vaccines are being distributed around the country, do you think the SWAC and other smaller conferences that pushed football back to the spring, do you think they'll still be able to play, or are they going to be better served by writing this season off and looking forward to re-implementing in the fall?
I really think, because what I'm hearing, that the majority of the people aren't going to be able to get this vaccine until late spring.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
And early summer.
Mm-hmm.
So I really think the SWAC and all those smaller schools who push their season back would be better served if you just wait until next year. The cost is too much.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to have fans. The cost is just too much. You got me?
Yeah.
And I just think it would do them better to just wait.
Yeah, and it is what it is, but the fact of the matter is, all the polls that I've seen, African Americans are by far and away the ones that are saying, "Oh, I'm not taking that shot, man."
Yeah.
So you may be on to something there. As we move across town, it appears, at least for the time being, unless something changes drastically, that LSU ending the season 5-5, particularly with those last 2 wins, has not hurt them in the recruiting battles out there, because it appears as though, again, LSU is going to have a top 3, if not certainly a top 5 recruiting class in the nation.
Yeah, and the thing is, even if you're in the top 10 recruiting, you're still really good because you got quality players.
Yeah.
And so LSU did real well for themselves. I know there's a second signing period in February.
Correct.
And if they're able to cash in again, which they probably will do good.
Right.
And if they get some clarification on this investigation that is going on in athletics, I think if that can come forward, a lot of parents will feel better with help having their kids come there.
Yeah.
So I think that is something we got to watch.
How tough does that make it from a recruiting standpoint, considering the sensitive nature of sexual misconduct in today's climate?
Well, some parents don't care, but there are other parents who do care.
Right.
And my thing is, when you're recruiting, you don't ever lose one player, because he could make a difference.
Oh, yeah.
So, and your image is everything.
Yeah.
Image is everything. So it makes a difference. And, if people keep writing about it, it's going to hurt them.
Yeah. Well, I seem to think it's just the gut, but I've learned to trust my gut over the years. We've not heard the last of this. Anytime there's mileage to be gained, the media will always pay attention to it. That's going to do it for week 3 of this week's edition of the Coach Roger Cador Show. Hope all stays well with you in your world, and we will see you next week. Same time, same station. Till then, go Jags.